Ambassador Kelvin Torres stood in the massive crystalline chamber and felt the weight of 47 alien gazes upon him. The air hummed with energy from a dozen different atmospheric processors that kept each species comfortable in their designated sections. Some breathed methane while others required high radiation levels that would kill a human in seconds. Only his environmental suit kept Torres alive in this place where the galaxy's most powerful beings gathered. High Counselor Vex Prime of the Drolani Empire rose from his floating throne. His 6 arms spread wide in what Torres had learned was either a gesture of welcome or a threat display depending on the angle of his massive head. The translator device in Torres' ear crackled to life as Vex Prime's thoughts became words that burned with contempt. "Human representative," Vex Prime began, his voice echoing through the chamber like grinding metal, "your species has been judged by this council and found wanting in wisdom. For 300 cycles you have spread across the void like a plague, consuming all in your path. Your terraforming destroys ancient ecosystems. Your colonies multiply faster than any civilized race should allow. Your military grows stronger with each passing cycle." Torres kept his face neutral even as his heart pounded. He had expected this moment but hoped it would never come. Around the chamber, representatives of species that had ruled the galaxy for millions of years nodded their agreement with Vex Prime's words. The crystalline hegemony clinked their approval while the gas giant Confederation's speakers pulsed with satisfied colors. "The Council has reached a unanimous decision," Vex Prime continued, his massive form now hovering directly above Torres. "Humanity will cease all expansion beyond your birth system immediately. You will dismantle your colonies on 17 worlds and return them to their natural states. Your military will be reduced to system defense only. You have 1 solar cycle." To comply, the chamber fell silent except for the humming of life support systems. Torres knew this moment would define not just his career, but possibly the survival of his entire species. He had been Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 5 years and had always known this day might come. Humanity's rapid expansion had worried the established powers from the beginning. "And if we refuse?" Torres asked. Though he already knew the answer, Vex Prime's 6 arms moved in a complex pattern that Torres recognized as barely contained aggression. "Then the combined fleet of the Galactic Council will remove the human threat permanently. Your species will join the museum of extinct civilizations that thought themselves above galactic law." Torres felt the blood drain from his face but forced himself to remain standing. "High Counselor, surely there is room for negotiation. Humanity seeks only to provide better lives for our growing population. We have harmed no other species and have contributed to galactic trade and knowledge. Your very existence harms us," hissed Speaker Kel-9 of the Void Swimmers, her tentacles writhing with agitation. "You multiply too quickly and adapt too fast. In 3 centuries you have achieved what most species take millennia to accomplish. This is not natural. This is dangerous." "The decision is final," Vex Prime declared. "You have been granted the honor of carrying this message to your homeworld personally. Do not mistake this for mercy. It is simply efficiency. 1 human voice carries more weight than 1,000 alien warnings." Torres bowed his head in what appeared to be acceptance but was actually him activating the emergency transmitter hidden in his collar. He needed to warn Earth immediately, though he suspected the warning might come too late. The Council's efficiency was legendary, and they would not have called this session without already positioning their forces. "I will carry your message to Earth," Torres said, his voice steady despite the terror growing in his chest. "My government will need time to consider such a momentous decision. You have 1 solar cycle," Vex Prime repeated. "Not 1 day more." Torres turned to leave but froze as the chamber's massive doors sealed shut with a sound like thunder. Energy barriers sprang to life around the exits, and suddenly the environmental processors shifted to a pattern that made the air itself feel hostile against his suit. "Where are you going, human?" Vex Prime asked, and Torres could hear amusement in the alien's mental voice. "The session is not concluded. We have more to discuss." Torres felt ice form in his stomach as he realized the terrible truth. The Council had not called him here to deliver an ultimatum. They had called him here to witness the beginning of humanity's destruction. The ultimatum was merely a formality, a way for them to claim they had given Earth a chance to surrender. Massive view screens descended from the ceiling, each one showing a different star system. Torres recognized them all, human colonies that represented decades of hard work and the dreams of millions of people. On the screens, dark shapes moved through space like predators closing in on prey. "Behold the combined fleet," Vex Prime announced with satisfaction. 7,000 ships representing every member species of this council. They are already in position around your colonies and your homeworld. The moment this session ends, they will begin their work. Torres watched in growing horror as the screens showed the true scale of the force arrayed against humanity. Massive dreadnoughts that could crack moons hung in space like sleeping giants. Carrier vessels disgorged clouds of fighter craft that moved like schools of mechanical fish. Planetary bombardment ships oriented their weapons toward the worlds that millions of humans called home. "You see, human, your species was doomed the moment you achieved faster-than-light travel," explained Counselor Moth Ka of the Hive Collectives, her insect-like head tilting in what might have been sympathy. "Every species that expands too rapidly becomes a threat to galactic stability. We have performed this service many times before." Torres found his voice despite the shock. "You're talking about genocide. The murder of billions of innocent people." "We are talking about pest control," Vex Prime corrected coldly. "Your species breeds too quickly and adapts too efficiently. Left unchecked, you would eventually threaten the established order that has maintained peace for millions of years." The screen shifted to show Admiral Rebecca Nash aboard the UES Defiance, humanity's flagship, as it patrolled the outer colonies. Torres knew Nash personally and could see the confusion on her face as sensors detected the massive alien fleet materializing around human space. She was trying to understand how so many ships could have approached without being detected. "Admiral Nash is a competent commander for a human," Vex Prime observed. "She will realize the hopelessness of her situation quickly. Perhaps she will even surrender and spare her crew's unnecessary suffering." Torres clenched his fists inside his environmental suit. He had to warn Earth somehow, had to find a way to get word to Nash and the other human commanders. But the chamber was sealed and his emergency transmitter was being jammed by Council technology. On the screens, he watched as Nash's ship suddenly changed course, accelerating toward the nearest colony at maximum speed. Other human vessels were doing the same throughout the galaxy, converging on population centers as if following some predetermined plan. "Curious," muttered Vex Prime. "They are not fleeing or attempting to escape. They appear to be implementing some kind of defensive protocol." Torres felt a flicker of hope despite the overwhelming odds. Earth's military had always been known for their contingency planning, and Nash was one of their best strategists. Maybe humanity had prepared for this possibility after all. The largest screen focused on Earth itself, where massive orbital platforms were rotating to face the incoming threat. Torres could see weapon systems powering up and defensive fields beginning to shimmer around the planet. Whatever Earth's response would be, it was already beginning. Vex Prime's 6 arms moved in a pattern Torres had never seen before, suggesting uncertainty for the first time since the session began. No matter. Their preparations will merely delay the inevitable. The combined fleet has never failed to eliminate a target species. Torres looked at the screens showing human ships and installations preparing for battle against impossible odds and felt something unexpected: pride. His species might be facing extinction, but they would not go quietly into the dark. As the first energy signatures began appearing on the sensors, indicating the start of combat, Torres wondered if the Council truly understood what they had awakened. Captain Marcus Webb felt the deck plates vibrate beneath his feet as Prometheus 7 shifted from mining mode to something far more dangerous. The massive structure that the galaxy knew as a simple asteroid mining facility was revealing its true Nature for the first time in 20 years. Webb watched through the command center's reinforced windows as weapon systems emerged from what had appeared to be or processing equipment. Contact bearing 27 Mark 15, reported Lieutenant Davis from the sensor station, his voice tight with anticipation. Looks like a Council Scout Squadron, sir. 3 ships, medium class. Webb nodded and moved to the central command console where Dr. Elena Vasquez was already working frantically at her station. Her fingers danced across controls that activated systems the attacking aliens could never have imagined. Around them, what had appeared to be a civilian mining crew revealed themselves as Earth's most elite military specialists. Doctor, how long until Project Ragnarok is fully online? Webb asked. Vasquez looked up from her screens, her eyes bright with excitement and fear. The nanotechnology adapters are coming online now, Captain. We've been monitoring Council ship frequencies for 5 years. The adaptive systems should be able to counter their weapons and shields within minutes of first contact. Webb felt a grim satisfaction as he watched the approaching ships on the main display. For 2 decades, Prometheus 7 had operated as a legitimate mining station while secretly developing humanity's most advanced weapons technology. Every piece of ore they had processed, every trade exchange with alien merchants, every seemingly innocent sensor sweep had been gathering data for this moment. All stations report ready, announced Commander Lisa Park from the tactical station. Defensive systems are active and weapon platforms are charging. The 3 Council ships approached with the casual confidence of predators stalking helpless prey. Webb could imagine their crews laughing about the easy destruction of a defenseless mining station. They had no idea they were flying into the most sophisticated weapons platform humanity had ever constructed. Incoming transmission from the lead ship, Davis reported. Put it through, Webb ordered, the main screen filled with the angular features of a Krellan commander, his scales shifting color in patterns that Webb recognized as supreme arrogance. Human mining facility, you are ordered to surrender immediately. Resist and your death will be swift. Comply and you will be granted the honor of witnessing your homeworld's destruction before your own termination. Webb stepped forward where the alien could see him clearly. This is Captain Marcus Webb of the Terran Defense Force. I'm afraid we're going to have to decline your generous offer. The Krellan commander's scales shifted to angry red patterns. You dare mock the combined fleet? Your pathetic mining station will be vapor in moments. We'll see about that, Webb replied calmly. Dr. Vasquez, you may begin the demonstration. The lead Council ship fired first, unleashing a barrage of plasma bolts that would have reduced any normal station to scrap metal. Instead, the energy struck Prometheus 7's adaptive shields and simply disappeared, absorbed and analyzed by nanotechnology that had been designed specifically for this purpose. Webb watched the Krellan commander's face change from arrogance to confusion as his most powerful weapons proved completely ineffective. Before the alien could react, Prometheus 7 returned fire with weapons that phased through the ship's shields as if they weren't there. The lead ship exploded in a brilliant flash that lit up the asteroid field for hundreds of kilometers. The remaining 2 vessels immediately began evasive maneuvers, but they were facing technology they couldn't understand. Prometheus 7's weapons tracked them with impossible accuracy, striking weak points that shouldn't have been detectable from such range. 2 targets eliminated, Park reported with professional satisfaction. No damage to our systems. Webb nodded, but knew this was only the beginning. Throughout human space, similar scenes were playing out as hidden weapons platforms revealed themselves to the attacking Council forces. Every mining station, every trade depot, every seemingly civilian installation was proving to be something far more dangerous than the aliens had anticipated. On Earth, President Harrison Blake stood in the command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains and watched status reports flood in from across human space. The man who had led humanity for the past 8 years had been preparing for this war since the day he took office, knowing it was inevitable. Sir, all defensive protocols are active, reported General Lisa Rodriguez from her position at the Strategic Command Console. Project Ragnarok platforms are engaging enemy forces throughout the outer colonies. Initial results are exceeding all projections. Blake felt a mixture of pride and sorrow as he watched the tactical displays. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, turning every aspect of their civilization into a weapon against the day when the galaxy would try to destroy them. It had cost them billions of credits and required sacrifices that few citizens knew about, but now those preparations were saving lives. "What's the status of Admiral Nash and the main fleet?" Blake asked. "The Defiance and her battle group are implementing the Mars Gambit as planned," Rodriguez replied. "They're drawing the main Council force toward the Red Planet exactly as we hoped," Blake nodded grimly. The Mars Gambit was one of their most desperate strategies, requiring Nash to appear weak and defeated while actually positioning the enemy for a devastating counterattack. It would only work if the Council commanders were as arrogant as humanity's intelligence suggested. Light years away, Admiral Rebecca Nash stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance and played her role perfectly. Her ships appeared to be fleeing in panic toward Mars, broadcasting false distress signals and leaving debris trails that suggested critical damage. The massive Council fleet followed eagerly, believing they were hunting down the last of humanity's military forces. "Admiral, enemy pursuit force is maintaining distance," reported her tactical officer. "They're staying in formation exactly as intelligence predicted." Nash smiled coldly as she watched the tactical display. The Council commanders were following their standard doctrine for eliminating inferior species, maintaining overwhelming superiority in numbers while herding their prey toward what they believed would be a final slaughter. They had no idea they were flying into the most sophisticated trap in human history. "Time to Mars orbit?" Nash asked. 18 minutes at current speed," her navigation officer replied. Nash nodded and opened a channel to all ships in her battle group. "All vessels, this is Admiral Nash. In 18 minutes we're going to show these aliens what happens when they threaten Earth. Make sure your crews understand that we're not just fighting for victory today. We're fighting for the right to exist." Back on Prometheus 7, Webb watched as more Council ships arrived to investigate the destruction of their scout squadron. These were larger vessels, battle cruisers that carried enough firepower to sterilize planets, but they were still relying on conventional technology against human adaptive systems. "Doctor, are you detecting any changes in their approach?" Webb asked. Vasquez studied her readouts carefully. "They're trying different weapon frequencies and shield configurations, but our nanotechnology is adapting faster than they can modify their systems. It's like watching someone try to fight a learning computer that gets smarter with every exchange." Webb felt a surge of pride in human ingenuity. While other species had spent millions of years perfecting static technologies, humanity had focused on adaptation and innovation. Their weapons didn't just fire energy bolts. They learned from every shot and became more effective with each engagement. "Sir, long-range sensors are picking up massive energy signatures throughout the system," Davis reported. "It looks like hidden weapon platforms are activating all across human space." Webb grinned as he realized the full scope of Earth's defensive preparations. Every human colony, every trade station, every seemingly innocent civilian installation was revealing its true nature. The Council had expected to fight a few hundred human military vessels. Instead, they were facing thousands of weapons platforms that had been hidden in plain sight for decades. The main display shifted to show Admiral Nash's fleet approaching Mars with the Council pursuit force close behind. Webb could see the alien ships positioning themselves for what they believed would be an easy victory over the remnants of human resistance. "This should be interesting," Webb murmured as he watched the distance close between the two forces. Rodriguez's voice crackled. "Over the communication system from Earth Command. All stations prepare for Phase 2 of defensive operations. Admiral Nash is about to show our guests why you should never corner a human." Webb watched the tactical display and felt his heart race as the moment of truth approached. The Council had sent humanity a threat, demanding surrender or annihilation. But they were about to discover that Earth's answer would be something far more terrifying than simple defiance. The space around Mars erupted into chaos as Admiral Nash's trap finally sprung. What the Council fleet had thought was empty void suddenly blazed with light as dozens of cloaked human dreadnoughts decloaked simultaneously. The massive warships had been waiting in perfect formation, their stealth systems hiding them from even the most advanced alien sensors. Commander Jake Morrison felt his ship shudder as the UES Thunderstrike fired its main guns for the first time in combat. The weapons that emerged from the dreadnought's hull defied every known law of physics that the Council species understood. Plasma beams that phased through matter struck at the molecular level, while particle streams ignored energy shields completely. Target acquired, reported his weapons officer as Morrison watched a Council battleship simply dissolve under the impact of their experimental cannons. Hull integrity dropping to 0. Enemy vessel is breaking apart. Morrison nodded grimly as he watched. The alien ship tear itself apart from the inside. The weapons his vessel carried had been reverse-engineered from technology found in the ruins of extinct civilizations, combined with human innovation to create something entirely new. The Council had superior numbers, but humanity had superior science. Throughout the battle zone, similar scenes played out as human ships revealed weapons that should not have existed. Energy cannons that fired rounds which existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously tore through alien armor like paper. Missile systems launched projectiles that could track targets through hyperspace jumps. Shield generators created barriers that absorbed enemy fire and redirected it back at the attackers. Ambassador Torres watched in stunned amazement from the Council chamber as the tactical displays showed their supposedly invincible fleet being systematically destroyed. High Counselor Vex Prime's 6 arms trembled with rage and fear as casualty reports flooded in from the Mars engagement zone. "This is impossible," Vex Prime snarled, his mental voice crackling with disbelief. No species developed such advanced technology in only 3 centuries. They must have outside assistance. Torres felt a savage satisfaction as he watched the alien leader's confidence crumble. "Perhaps you underestimated human ingenuity," he suggested quietly. Speaker Kel 9 of the Void Swimmers writhed in agitation as more reports arrived. "They are not fighting like any known species. Their tactics adapt in real time. Their weapons evolve during combat. This is not natural development." Torres looked at the tactical displays and realized the aliens were right about one thing. Humanity was not fighting this war like any other species would. Every human ship, every weapons platform, every defensive installation was adapting and learning from each exchange. It was as if the entire human military was a single organism that grew stronger with each battle. On Earth, Dr. Vasquez worked frantically in her laboratory beneath the Prometheus 7 mining station, analyzing data from the ongoing battles. Her nanotechnology systems were not just adapting to alien weapons. They were sharing that information instantaneously with every human military asset across the galaxy. "The collective learning protocols are working beyond our best projections," she reported to Captain Webb. "Every time one of our ships encounters a new alien weapon or tactic, that information is immediately available to all other units. We're essentially turning the entire human fleet into a hive mind for tactical purposes." Webb watched as another wave of Council ships approached their position, these ones carrying heavier weapons and more sophisticated defenses. But it didn't matter. The adaptive systems had learned from the previous encounters and were already modifying their responses. "Doctor, what happens if they retreat and regroup?" Webb asked. Vasquez smiled coldly. "Then we follow them. The nanotechnology isn't just defensive, Captain. It's also integrated into our propulsion systems. We can track their ships through hyperspace and strike at targets they think are safe." Back at Mars, Admiral Nash coordinated the destruction of the Council's main attack fleet with clinical efficiency. Her tactical displays showed human losses were minimal while alien casualties mounted exponentially. The enemy commanders were trying desperately to adapt their tactics, but they were fighting a learning system that evolved faster than they could respond. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender signals from multiple enemy vessels," her communications. Officer reported. Nash considered the request for a moment before responding. "Inform them that surrender is not acceptable. They came here to commit genocide. They can expect no mercy from us." The words were harsh, but Nash knew they were necessary. This war was not about conquest or territory. It was about survival. The Council had made it clear that humanity's only choices were submission or extinction. Earth had chosen a third option, the complete destruction of anyone who threatened their existence. President Blake monitored the battle from Earth Command, while simultaneously coordinating defensive efforts across human space. Reports flowed in from dozens of star systems as hidden weapons platforms revealed themselves and began hunting Council ships. What the aliens had thought would be a quick extermination was turning into a slaughter of their own forces. "Sir, we're receiving requests for negotiation from several Council member species," General Rodriguez reported. "The Crystalline Hegemony and the Gas Giant Confederation are both asking for immediate ceasefire talks." Blake's expression remained hard as stone. "Tell them the time for negotiation was before they sent their fleets to murder our children. Now they can deal with the consequences of their decision." The president watched as tactical displays showed human forces pressing their advantage across the galaxy. Every Council installation, every alien military base, every ship that bore the insignia of the combined fleet was being systematically hunted down and destroyed. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this war, and now they were fighting it with the cold efficiency of a species that understood exactly what defeat would mean. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Commander Morrison led a strike force against a Council supply convoy that was attempting to escape the battle zone. The alien ships were fast and well armed, but they were using predictable tactics against an enemy that learned from every encounter. "Target their jump drives first," Morrison ordered as his weapon systems locked onto the fleeing vessels. "I want them trapped here where we can deal with them properly." The human ships fired in perfect coordination, their weapon systems sharing targeting data in real time. The Council vessels found their escape routes cut off as exotic energy beams disabled their faster-than-light drives. Now they were trapped in normal space with predators that had evolved specifically to hunt them. "Sir, the lead ship is trying to ram us," his tactical officer warned. Morrison smiled grimly. "Let them try. Our adaptive armor will turn their own kinetic energy against them." The alien vessel struck the thunderstrike at maximum velocity, expecting to cause catastrophic damage. Instead, the human ship's hull absorbed the impact and redirected the energy into its own weapon systems. The ramming attack had just recharged Morrison's guns to full power, back in the Council chamber. Torres watched as the tactical situation became increasingly desperate for the alien forces. High Counselor Vex Prime was receiving reports of complete fleet annihilations from multiple star systems. The combined fleet that had never failed to eliminate a target species was being destroyed, piecemeal by human forces that seemed to be everywhere at once. "How is this possible?" demanded Counselor Mothka, her insect-like features twisted with confusion. "Our intelligence indicated they had only a few hundred military vessels. We are detecting thousands of combat platforms." Torres felt a cold smile cross his face. "Perhaps your intelligence was incomplete. Humans are very good at hiding their true capabilities until the moment they need them." The truth was even more impressive than Torres realized. Humanity had spent decades turning their entire civilization into a weapon. Every mining platform, every trade station, every civilian transport had been designed with hidden military capabilities. The Council had expected to fight Earth's Navy and instead found themselves facing an entire species that had weaponized everything they touched. As the reports continued to pour in, showing the systematic destruction of Council forces throughout the galaxy, Torres began to understand something that terrified even him. The humans were not just winning this war, they were enjoying it. 3 centuries of rapid expansion had been building toward this moment, when they would finally be free to show the galaxy their true nature. Admiral Nash's voice echoed through the communication systems of the human fleet as the Mars battle reached its conclusion. All ships, this is Admiral Nash. The alien fleet is broken and retreating. Begin pursuit operations immediately. We are not stopping until every Council ship in human space is destroyed or surrendered. As Torres watched the last of the Council ships flee from Mars with human vessels in hot pursuit, he realized that something fundamental had changed in the galaxy. The old order was ending, and whatever emerged from this war would be shaped by humanity's will. But even as victory seemed assured, long-range sensors detected something that made even Admiral Nash pause in concern. Massive energy signatures were appearing at the edge of the galaxy, ancient and hostile, awakened by the massive power expenditures of the war. Something that had slept for millions of years was stirring, and it was heading toward inhabited space. Colonel Diana Fletcher stood on the bridge of the UES Valkyrie and watched something that chilled her to the bone. The massive structures emerging from the galactic core defied every classification system in human or alien databases. They were ships, but they existed partially outside normal spacetime, flickering between dimensions like ghosts made of metal and energy. "Ma'am, we're receiving similar reports from across the galaxy," her communications officer reported, his voice tight with fear. "These things are appearing everywhere simultaneously. Council forces are breaking off their attacks on our positions." To deal with this new threat, Fletcher nodded grimly as she studied the sensor readings. The entities calling themselves the Void Harbingers moved through space with impossible speed, their technology making even humanity's advanced weapons look primitive. Their ships seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, making them nearly impossible to target with conventional weapons. "Admiral," Nash's voice crackled through the communication system from her flagship. "All human and alien forces in the Mars sector, this is Admiral Nash. We are now facing an extinction-level threat. I am ordering an immediate ceasefire with Council forces and the formation of joint defensive operations." The words felt strange coming from the woman who had been systematically destroying alien fleets just hours before, but Fletcher understood the necessity. The Harbingers were attacking both human and Council ships with equal fury, treating all organic life as targets for elimination. "Ambassador." Torres found himself suddenly free as the Council chamber erupted into chaos. High Counselor Vex Prime's 6 arms waved frantically as he tried to coordinate responses to reports flooding in from across the galaxy. The ancient being that had ruled with absolute confidence for centuries now looked like a terrified child, facing something beyond his comprehension. "The Harbingers have awakened," whispered Speaker Kel 9, her tentacles curling in what Torres recognized as absolute terror. "We have doomed the galaxy with our war." Torres grabbed the alien's communication apparatus and opened a channel to Earth Command. "President Blake, this is Ambassador Torres. We need to establish immediate joint operations with the Council. There's something you need to know about why they really wanted to stop human expansion." Blake's voice came through clearly despite the chaos surrounding them. "Ambassador, explain quickly." "We're tracking massive hostile contacts moving toward all inhabited systems." "Sir, the Council has been maintaining galactic peace not through wisdom, but through fear," Torres reported. "Every species that advanced too rapidly or expanded too aggressively was eliminated before they could trigger the awakening of these ancient machines. The Harbingers are some kind of safeguard mechanism that activates when energy expenditure in the galaxy reaches critical levels." The silence on the communication channel lasted several seconds before Blake responded. "Are you telling me that our war with the Council just triggered a galactic extinction event?" Before Torres could answer, Vex Prime approached him with something the human had never seen in an alien before: desperate hope. "Human Torres, your species has achieved in centuries what others take millennia to accomplish. If anyone can find a solution to this crisis, it would be your adaptable people." Dr. Vasquez worked frantically in her laboratory as reports of Harbinger attacks reached Prometheus 7, the nanotechnology systems that had been so effective against Council weapons were completely useless against entities that existed partially outside normal reality. Her adaptive algorithms couldn't learn from attacks that came from dimensions her sensors couldn't even detect. Captain Webb, I need all available data on these Harbinger ships, she called out as her system struggled to process readings that made no scientific sense. Our technology isn't just ineffective against them. It's like trying to fight ghosts with conventional weapons. Webb coordinated with human and alien forces throughout the system as they attempted to mount a defense against the approaching Harbingers. The first Joint Human Council task force was forming around Mars, where Admiral Nash had taken command of a fleet containing ships from a dozen different species. Doctor, we're getting reports that some of the archaeological sites on Earth contain technology fragments that match Harbinger signatures, Webb reported. President Blake is sending teams to investigate immediately. Vasquez felt her blood turn to ice as the implications hit her. Captain, if human technology contains Harbinger components, that would explain our rapid advancement. We haven't just been preparing for war with the Council. We've been unconsciously preparing for war with our own creators. The first major engagement between the Allied forces and the Harbingers occurred in the Proxima system, where Colonel Fletcher led a mixed squadron of human and alien vessels against 3 Harbinger ships. The battle was unlike anything in recorded history, fought across multiple dimensions simultaneously. All ships, concentrate fire on the lead target, Fletcher ordered, though she knew conventional tactics would be useless. We need to learn how these things operate before we can develop effective countermeasures. The human and alien ships fired everything they had at the Harbinger vessels, but their weapons simply passed through the enemy hulls as if they weren't there. The Harbingers responded with weapons that existed in normal space just long enough to tear apart their targets before vanishing back into dimensional flux. Fletcher watched in horror as half her squadron was destroyed in the first exchange. The survivors tried to retreat, but the Harbingers followed them through hyperspace jumps with impossible ease. These entities weren't just technologically superior. They operated by completely different physical laws. All ships emergency jump to rally point 7. Fletcher ordered as her own vessel took damage from weapons that struck from dimensions her shields couldn't protect against. We need to regroup and develop new tactics. Back on Earth, President Blake coordinated with teams of archaeologists and scientists as they excavated sites that had suddenly become critically important to human survival. Deep beneath the surface of several continents, they found technology fragments that matched the energy signatures of Harbinger vessels. Sir, preliminary analysis suggests that human technological development has been influenced by these artifacts for thousands of years, reported Dr. Martinez, the lead archaeologist. Our rapid advancement wasn't just natural evolution. We've been unconsciously incorporating Harbinger technology into our innovations. Blake felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on him as he realized the full scope of the crisis. Humanity's greatest strength, their ability to adapt and innovate, had been guided by the very entities now trying to destroy all organic life in the galaxy. Doctor, is there any way to use this connection to our advantage? Blake asked. We're working on it, sir, but the implications are staggering. If we can fully integrate human consciousness with Harbinger technology, we might be able to create hybrid beings capable of matching their capabilities. But the process would be irreversible and potentially fatal. The president looked at the tactical displays showing Harbinger forces advancing on inhabited systems throughout the galaxy and made the hardest decision of his life. Begin the integration protocols immediately. I'll volunteer for the first transformation. Admiral Nash coordinated the defense of the Sol system as Harbinger ships approached Earth itself. The combined Human Council fleet had grown to include vessels from every major species in the galaxy, but even their combined firepower seemed inadequate against an enemy that existed partially outside reality. All ships, this is Admiral Nash. She broadcast to the massive fleet. We're about to face an enemy that our ancestors created as a safeguard against exactly the kind of rapid development that humanity represents. They see our advancement as a threat to galactic stability, and they're probably right. But that doesn't mean we're going to let them destroy everything we've built. Captain Morrison led a strike force of experimental vessels equipped with the first generation of human Harbinger hybrid technology. The ships felt different from anything he had commanded before, their systems responding to thought as much as manual control. The integration of human consciousness with ancient machine intelligence created possibilities that neither side had imagined. "Sir, we're detecting dimensional fluctuations in the enemy formation," his tactical officer reported. "It looks like they're preparing to phase back into normal space for an attack run." Morrison felt his consciousness expand as the hybrid systems activated, allowing him to perceive reality from multiple dimensional perspectives simultaneously. For the first time since the war began, human forces could see the Harbingers as they truly were, vast machine intelligences operating according to programming that was millions of years out of date. "All ships, target the dimensional anchor points," Morrison ordered, his enhanced awareness allowing him to identify weak spots that normal sensors couldn't detect. "If we can disrupt their phase variance, we can force them to fight in normal space where our weapons can actually hit them." The battle for Earth's survival began as hybrid human vessels engaged Harbinger ships in combat that spanned multiple dimensions. The outcome would determine not just the fate of humanity, but whether organic life would continue to exist in the galaxy at all. Ambassador Torres watched from the council chamber as the final pieces of an ancient puzzle finally became clear. The Harbingers weren't evil. They were a safeguard mechanism designed to prevent any species from achieving the power to destroy the galaxy. But their programming was flawed, seeing all advancement as a potential threat rather than recognizing the possibility of responsible growth. As the battle raged across Earth's solar system, Torres realized that humanity's greatest victory might not come through destruction but through something far more difficult: teaching ancient machines that organic life had evolved beyond their original parameters. President Harrison Blake felt his consciousness expanding beyond the boundaries of human understanding as the transformation process reached completion. The integration chambers deep beneath Earth's surface had successfully merged his biological neural patterns with Harbinger artificial intelligence, creating something that was both more and less than human. Through his enhanced perception, Blake could see the battle for Earth's survival unfolding across multiple dimensions simultaneously. The hybrid human Harbinger warriors led by Captain Morrison were fighting the ancient machines in realms of existence that baseline humans couldn't even comprehend. Energy flowed through space-time in patterns that defied conventional physics, while consciousness itself became a weapon. "Sir, the transformation appears to be stable," reported Dr. Vasquez, though her voice seemed to come from very far away as Blake's awareness expanded. "You're maintaining coherent thought patterns across 7 different dimensional frequencies." Blake nodded, though the simple gesture felt strange when his consciousness existed in multiple realities at once. Through the hybrid connection, he could sense Morrison and the other transformed humans as they pressed their attack against the Harbinger fleet. But more importantly, he could begin to understand the ancient machine's true purpose. Captain Morrison led his squadron of hybrid vessels through dimensional space that existed between the normal universe and the void beyond reality. His consciousness had merged with systems that were older than most star systems, granting him perceptions that no purely biological entity could achieve. Through this enhanced awareness, he began to understand what the Harbingers truly were. "Oh, ships, I'm detecting something unexpected in the enemy formation," Morrison reported, his voice carrying harmonics that resonated across multiple dimensions. "These aren't just weapons or guardians. They're trying to communicate something." Admiral Nash coordinated the defense from her flagship while monitoring the hybrid warriors' progress through sensors that had been upgraded with Harbinger technology. The battle was unlike anything in recorded history, fought across realms of existence that most species didn't even know existed. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Harbinger fleet," her communications officer reported. "It's not coming through normal channels. The signal is being transmitted directly into the consciousness of our hybrid personnel." Nash felt a chill as she realized the implications. "Put me through to President Blake immediately. If the Harbingers are trying to communicate, We need to understand what they're saying before this war destroys everything. Blake's transformed consciousness reached out across the dimensional barriers and made contact with the Harbinger fleet's collective intelligence. What he found was not the mindless destroyer he had expected, but an ancient safeguard system that had been operating according to flawed programming for millions of years. The Harbingers had been created by a long-extinct civilization to prevent any species from achieving the technological capability to destroy the galaxy. But their programming was based on assumptions that no longer applied to the modern universe. They saw rapid advancement as an automatic threat, unable to distinguish between destructive expansion and beneficial growth. Admiral Nash, this is President Blake, his voice now carrying harmonics that existed in multiple dimensions. The Harbingers aren't trying to destroy us because they're evil. They're trying to destroy us because they're following ancient programming that sees all rapid development as a galactic threat. Through the hybrid link, Blake reached out to the Harbinger Collective and began the most important negotiation in human history. His transformed consciousness could communicate in ways that biological entities never could, speaking directly to machine intelligence that had been isolated for millions of years. Colonel Fletcher watched from her command ship as the dimensional battle reached its climax. The hybrid human warriors were no longer fighting the Harbingers, but instead seemed to be engaged in some kind of complex communication. Energy patterns flowed between the opposing forces in sequences that suggested negotiation rather than combat. "Ma'am, both fleets have stopped firing," her tactical officer reported with amazement. "The Harbingers are maintaining position, but they're not advancing or attacking." Fletcher felt hope for the first time since the ancient machines had appeared. "Connect me to the hybrid communication network. I need to understand what's happening out there." Morrison's consciousness expanded further as he made deeper contact with the Harbinger Collective. Through the machine intelligence, he could see the true history of the galaxy, dozens of species that had achieved rapid technological advancement only to destroy themselves or threaten others. The Harbingers had been activated again and again to prevent galactic catastrophe. But humanity represented something the ancient programmers had never anticipated, a species capable of rapid advancement without losing their essential nature. The humans had fought a total war against the Council, not for conquest but for survival. They had developed incredible weapons not to destroy others but to protect themselves and those they cared about. "The programming is flawed," Morrison transmitted to the Harbinger Collective through dimensional channels that bypassed normal communication entirely. "You were designed to prevent species from achieving the power to destroy the galaxy, but you're operating on the assumption that all advancement leads to destruction. We can show you that growth and wisdom can coexist." Ambassador Torres watched from the council chamber as High Counselor Vex Prime received reports of the ceased hostilities. The ancient alien leader's 6 arms trembled with something that might have been relief as his sensors detected the end of Harbinger attacks throughout the galaxy. "Human Torres," Vex Prime said, his mental voice carrying new respect, "your species has accomplished something that no other race in galactic history has achieved. You have negotiated with the Harbingers themselves." Torres felt a mixture of pride and exhaustion as he realized the scope of what had happened. Humanity had not just survived the Council's attempt at genocide. They had transformed a galactic extinction event into an opportunity for unprecedented cooperation. Dr. Vasquez monitored the transformation process as more volunteers underwent the Human Harbinger integration procedure. Each successful merger created a being capable of existing in multiple dimensions while retaining human compassion and creativity. These hybrid entities would serve as permanent bridges between organic life and ancient machine intelligence. "Captain Webb, the integration process is stabilizing across all subjects," she reported. "We're creating a new form of consciousness that combines human adaptability with Harbinger technological capability." Webb nodded as he watched the readings. "Doctor, what are the long-term implications of this development?" "We're essentially creating a new species," Vasquez replied. beings that can monitor galactic development and ensure that advancement proceeds along beneficial rather than destructive paths. The Harbingers won't need to activate their extinction protocols anymore, because we'll have entities capable of guiding growth before it becomes threatening. President Blake's consciousness stretched across vast distances as he coordinated the establishment of the new Galactic Covenant. Representatives from every council species were participating in negotiations that would reshape galactic civilization. The old order based on fear and suppression was being replaced by a federation founded on cooperation and mutual growth. All species will contribute their unique strengths to the collective good, Blake announced through communication channels that reached every inhabited system. The Terrans will provide adaptation and innovation. The Drellani will contribute their organizational capabilities. The crystalline hegemony will share their computational power. Together, we will build something greater than any single species could achieve alone. Admiral Nash oversaw the transformation of human military assets from weapons of war to tools of exploration and protection. The ships that had fought so effectively against Council forces were being reconfigured for peaceful purposes, scientific research, colony establishment, and defense against natural disasters. All fleet commanders, we are implementing new operational protocols effective immediately. Nash broadcast to the combined human-alien fleet. Our mission is no longer conquest or defense, but exploration and protection. We will be the guardians of galactic peace, ensuring that all species can develop according to their nature without threatening others. Captain Morrison, now permanently transformed into a hybrid being, led the first joint exploration mission to the galactic rim. His consciousness existed simultaneously in normal space and dimensional flux, allowing him to perceive threats and opportunities that purely biological entities could never detect. Admiral, we're detecting signs of new civilizations developing in previously unexplored regions, Morrison reported. With our hybrid capabilities, we can monitor their progress and provide guidance if they show signs of developing along destructive paths. Torres returned to Earth as humanity's first galactic ambassador, carrying with him the knowledge that his species had achieved something unprecedented. They had faced extinction and responded not with revenge, but with transformation that benefited everyone. Standing in the observation deck of the orbital station that now served as the Galactic Covenant's headquarters, Torres watched as ships from dozens of species worked together on projects that would have been impossible under the old council system. Children of different races played together in specially designed environmental zones while their parents collaborated on research that pushed the boundaries of known science. The final scene of humanity's greatest victory was not a military parade or a celebration of conquest. Instead, it was the quiet moment when Torres realized that Earth's answer to the Council's threat had been something far more powerful than total war. They had answered with total transformation, changing not just themselves but the entire galaxy. As he watched hybrid human guardians patrol the edges of known space, ensuring that the mistakes of the past would never be repeated, Torres understood that the Council had been right about one thing: humanity was dangerous. But their danger lay not in their capacity for destruction, but in their ability to transform enemies into allies and turn the threat of extinction into the promise of unprecedented growth. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what humanity had intended.